Once again, my wife made an excuse to visit her parents and took our son with her to meet her new boyfriend. I roared at her in fury. Lu Ruyan, fine. You want to degrade yourself. That's your business. But why drag our son into it? My wife scolded me impatiently. What is wrong with you? If you've got nothing better to do, go make some money, you useless loser. Our son chimed in from the side as well, telling me I was good for nothing and couldn't compare to his moonlight dad in any way. I was utterly dead inside. Without so much as a backward glance, I boarded a flight abroad. I didn't even have time to bother with the divorce. You've finally come to your senses and agreed to take over the overseas branch? After submitting the application email for the overseas branch, I let out a deep breath. Almost the very next second, my boss called, his voice brimming with approval. But then, with a trace of concern, he asked, "By the way, does your wife agree to this?" I glanced upstairs. Lu Ruyan was in the bedroom, meticulously doing her makeup. I answered calmly, "Where I go has nothing to do with her anymore." I hung up. Lu Ruyan came down from the second-floor bedroom, oblivious to the fact that I was packing my things. A smile graced her face, her exquisite makeup and red dress radiating stunning beauty. "I'm not eating at home today. I'm taking Lele to my parents' place for a birthday celebration. Don't bother me if there's nothing urgent." She announced this as she walked toward the door, her smile fading as she spoke, turning cold and impatient. "Did you hear me?" "Yeah. What are you doing with the down jacket?" Lu Ruyan stopped at the doorway, frowning, her delicate brows knitting together. Her words carried a commanding tone, something I had long grown accustomed to. But who could have imagined that the woman, who just 2 years ago, still spoke to me with such tender warmth and clung to me so lovingly, would turn into this the moment Chang'an came back. Meeting her disgusted, impatient gaze, I answered calmly, "Nothing. These clothes are too messy, so I'm just tidying them up." Not long ago I would have answered with far more caution, terrified of saying a single wrong word and angering Lu Ruyan. But at this moment I no longer cared. Truth be told, both Lu Ruyan and I were lying. Her so-called taking the child to her parents for a birthday was nothing more than an excuse. The real purpose was probably to go on a date with Chang'an. She had been doing this for the past 2 years, thinking I was clueless, when in fact I had long since figured it all out. And as for me packing winter clothes, well, it was the dead of winter at the overseas branch. Bringing warm clothes was simply a precaution. Again with that dead fish face of yours, like someone owes you a fortune. That's what I hate most about you. My merely calm reply unexpectedly sent Lu Ruyan into a rage, like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. "Shen Quan, I truly regret marrying you now. It's utterly pointless." With that, she slammed the door and left. My heart instinctively seized up with tension, but this time I forcibly held back the urge to chase after her and apologize. Perhaps it was because I was about to leave soon. I quickly calmed down, merely sighed, shook my head, and resumed packing. In truth, if Lu Ruyan had paid a little more attention, she would have noticed that many things were missing from the house. My usual water cup, the blanket I often used when sleeping on the sofa, my toiletries in the bathroom. But she probably ignored anything she didn't care about, and so she discovered nothing. Holding a group photo of Lu Ruyan, Lele, and me, I hesitated for a moment, unsure whether to bring it along. A week earlier, I had suddenly received a call from my son's school teacher, saying that my son Lele had been picked up by a stranger. The person had shown a photo with Lu Ruyan, so the teacher let him go. But just to be safe, the teacher called me anyway. I wanted to ask Lu Ruyan who that person was, but I couldn't get through to her. I could only follow my son's tracking watch to find him. It was a restaurant. The moment I reached the private room door, I heard my son's delighted voice. "Uncle Chang'an, you're so great. You always know what I like to eat. Unlike my useless loser of a dad, who never cares about anything, I've been sick of him for ages."
Useless loser.
A sharp pain stabbed through my chest, as though someone had seized my heart and crushed it mercilessly, so painful that my hands unconsciously clenched into fists. Was this really my son, Lele? How could he say something like that? Just as I was about to push the door open, I heard Chang'an burst out laughing. "Lele, where did you learn that word? It's quite fitting, actually. By the way, what would you think if I became your dad? Would you be happy about it?" I stopped dead in my tracks, clinging to one last shred of hope, expecting Lele to refuse him outright. But then Lele's eager words shattered the last of my illusions. "Really? Dad Cheng, that would be amazing. My mom would definitely be willing too. After all, I heard the word useless loser from my mom. She would definitely be happy to marry you." My son had called someone else dad. I didn't listen to the rest. Those few sentences alone were enough to make my entire world fall into dead silence. Every ounce of strength seemed to drain from my body, and my chest ached with unbearable pain, as though something had taken a savage bite out of it, leaving a gaping hole. Numbly I turned and walked away. I don't even know how I made it back home. For 10 years, I had worked myself to the bone, pouring all my time into work and all my love into my wife and son, all so that Lu Ruyan and Lele could have a better life. Pulling all-nighters and working overtime were the norm for me, and now, in their mouths, I had become nothing but a useless loser. That night, after agonizing for a long time, I couldn't help but ask Lu Ruyan what place I held in her heart. To my surprise, she flared up immediately and berated me furiously. "Shen Quan, are you ever going to stop? If you've got so much free time to ask boring questions like this, why don't you spend more time with your son?" Lele, however, protested with great reluctance, not even bothering to swallow the burger in his mouth before eagerly refuting me. "Mom, I don't want Dad to spend time with me. He smells bad. I want Uncle Cheng to keep me company. He buys me toys, takes me out for burgers, and lets me play on the computer. I opened my mouth, but no words came out. My son's voice from that day still seemed to echo in my mind. I came back to my senses, looked at the group photo in my hand, hesitated for a long time, and finally put it down. I had once admonished Lei that play and indulgence should be balanced, that if both body and mind were devoted entirely to pleasure, then growing up would be very, very hard. But now I understood. Children, after all, are children. They only remember the person who gives them candy, and don't care at all whether that candy is poisoned. I sighed helplessly. Forget it. In his heart, Chang'an is probably more suited to be his father than I am. Just as I was finishing my simple packing, Lu Ruyan actually came back with Lele, as if she had forgotten something. She headed straight upstairs without so much as a glance at me. Shen Quan, did you go into my bedroom? Where's the gift box I left on the vanity? A moment later, Lu Ruyan came downstairs with furrowed brows, and the first words out of her mouth were an interrogation. I was somewhat confused and said, I hadn't seen it. Lel's eyes lit up. Pointing at the pocket of my trousers, he shouted loudly, Mom, Dad has something in his pocket. He must have stolen the gift for Uncle Cheng. With that, he lunged forward to search me while I was still stunned. I tried to stop Lele, but he bit my hand fiercely with all his strength. As I let go in pain, he snatched it out and handed it to Lu Ruyan like a trophy. Mom, what kind of gift is this? Are you giving Uncle Cheng a piece of paper? Lu Ruyan's pupil suddenly contracted. She looked up at me, her eyes filled with confusion. A plane ticket? What are you going abroad for? When did I ever agree to this? Our eyes met. The living room fell silent for a moment. I spoke calmly. The company made a temporary arrangement for a business trip. I haven't had a chance to tell you yet. Lu Ruyan's frown eased slightly, but her expression was still somewhat displeased. I understood. She wasn't used to this. Certain things were slipping beyond her control, especially when, just as she was about to scold me, her phone suddenly rang, and her expression visibly softened. Chang'an? Yes, we're on our way. You're already waiting? Okay, see you soon. Lele cheered up instantly, completely indifferent to the fact that he had bitten my hand. Mom, let's hurry. We can buy the gift later. Uncle Cheng said he's taking me to the amusement park. Meeting my calm gaze, Lu Ruyan ultimately held back her reprimand. She merely tossed out, from now on, get my approval before doing anything, and then rushed off in a hurry. After the two of them left, a wave of release washed over my entire body, and I let out a bitter laugh. Thank goodness Lele had pulled out the plane ticket, because in my other pocket was the divorce agreement I had tricked Lu Ruyan into signing. Late at night, I lay alone on the bed in the guest room, tossing and turning, unable to sleep. Ever since Chang'an came back 2 years ago, Lu Ruyan had suddenly claimed she was a light sleeper and needed to sleep alone. She banished me to the guest room and never allowed me into the master bedroom again. Back then, I believed her. I even went so far as to consult an old traditional Chinese medicine practitioner and got calming, sleep-aiding herbal remedies that I brewed for her every night. Until one day, when I was bringing the medicine up to her, I overheard her video call with Chang'an at the door. Ruyan, is that husband of yours still brewing Chinese medicine for you every day? If he knew you've been pouring it all out without drinking a drop. Chang'an's laughter came from the room. Then came Lu Ruyan's voice, both annoyed and helpless. What else can I do? I'm sick to death of him, and you're laughing. I'm only doing this to get him out of the way so I can see you every day, you know. Crash, the bowl and spoon shattered on the floor. The scalding herbal medicine burned my foot, but I felt no pain, because the pain in my heart was 1,000 times worse. Perhaps Lu Ruyan heard the noise outside the door. From that day on, her attitude toward me grew worse and worse. She even started leaving early and coming back late, utterly indifferent to my feelings. We had loved each other for nearly 10 years. I couldn't bear to let go of Lu Ruyan, couldn't give up on what we had, especially with Li just born at the time, so I kept enduring. But even an Iron Man has his breaking point. Now I could endure no longer. I wanted to give up. I slowly closed my eyes. I don't know how I fell asleep, only that the next morning, I was woken by the pinging of my phone. I opened it. The very first message was from Chang'an, tagging me. He had posted on social media the night before, a photo of him, Lu Ruyan, and Lael at the amusement park. The three of them sat on a carousel, beaming sweet, blissful smiles at the camera. Under the glow of the neon lights, they looked like a happy family of three. The caption read, "With you and you, my life is complete." The comments below were unanimous. All blessings from mutual friends of Lu Ruyan and Chang'an. So sweet. Ruyan and Lele are wasted on you, man. Best wishes, 999. When are you treating us to wedding candy? One comment, in particular, made me freeze. That's odd. Why hasn't Shen Quan made a move or checked up on her? Has he been tamed by Ruyan? Liu Ruyan replied to this comment. Because I've blocked him. He's probably panicking right now, not knowing what to do. Through those words, I could almost see Lu Ruyan's disdainful yet smug expression. And the reason I froze was that I recalled how, after we started sleeping separately, every time Lu Ruyan left early and came back late, or even made excuses to stay out all night, I would always call her humbly, asking when she'd be back, whether I should save her dinner. The meaning hidden within that groveling was simply a plea. Could she please come home? I was still at home waiting for her, and every single time, all I got in return was her once inexplicable scolding. Shen Quan, you're terrifying. Are you trying to control my life? Let me tell you, dream on. Being with you is the biggest mistake I've ever made in my life. Back then, I was so afraid. As much as I loved her, I feared losing her just as much, so I could only apologize to her over and over, yet still persisted in calling her, hoping that one day she might change her mind. But now I wanted to tell her. Not anymore. She didn't need to block me. From now on, I would never check up on her again, and I would never rush her to come home. I quietly turned off my phone and got up to wash. Liu Ruyan and Lele clearly hadn't come back. The house was deathly silent. I spent half an hour tidying up and adding some spare clothes. The house was large, but in truth, my belongings were very few. A single 28-inch suitcase could fit everything. Over the years, nearly all the money I earned had been spent on Liu Ruyan and Lele. Still, having lived here for so many years, I couldn't help but feel a twinge of reluctance. The flight was at noon. I called my boss to say goodbye. The boss sighed. "Shen Quan, it's my fault for making it impossible for you to balance work and family. Let me apologize to you first. And then, I'll be waiting to celebrate your success when you return." After hanging up, I sat in the living room with my suitcase, waiting 4 hours to go. I cut myself out of every family photo in the living room, leaving only the mother and son in the albums. 3 hours to go. I snapped my domestic SIM card in half and tossed it into the trash. 2 hours to go. There was no longer any trace of me left in the house, only a signed divorce agreement lying on the table. Time was about up. I stood and walked to the door. I had thought of leaving a few words for the mother and son, but after some consideration, I kept them in my heart instead. "My wife, my son, this is the last time I'll ever call you that. I once made you my entire world, and all I got in return was hurt after hurt. I'm tired. Truly tired. May we each find our own peace and never meet again." The driver had already arrived. I put my hand on the door handle, bringing my 10-year dream to an end, but at that moment, the door suddenly swung open from the outside. Liu Ruyan stood panting at the doorway, looking exhausted. She froze for a second at the sight of me holding a suitcase, and then with what seemed like grievance in her voice, she said, "Shen Quan, why didn't you check up on me? Why would I check up on her?" In that instant of bewilderment, I recalled the social media post I had seen that morning. How ridiculous. Every time I had checked up on her in the past, she always complained that I was meddling too much, impatiently scolding me for being sick in the head, accusing me of trying to control her life. And now that I wasn't checking up on her, she was unhappy about it. Who was really the sick one here? To keep her from finding out, I feigned sudden realization and said, "Oh, you mean yesterday? My phone ran out of battery, so I didn't call. Besides, aren't you most annoyed by me trying to control you? I thought about it, and I've decided to give you your freedom." At this, Liu Ruyan fell somewhat silent, as if unsure how to respond. But she clearly hadn't grasped what I really meant, otherwise her attitude wouldn't be like this. With the departure time drawing closer and the driver already waiting, I could only break the silence. "Do you need something? If not, I have to catch my flight." This time, Liu Ruyan was silent for even longer before she finally spoke. "Yes, Lela said he wants you to help him with his homework tonight. Can you not go?" There seemed to be a trace of inexplicable panic in her voice, as though she had sensed something. Hearing this, I almost wanted to laugh. How ironic. Hadn't Lele always hated it when I meddled in his affairs? Not letting him eat junk food, not letting him waste his potential on idle pleasures. In his heart, didn't he think I was inferior to Chang'an? He'd rather have Chang'an be his father than get close to me. So why, today of all days, did the sun rise in the west, and he suddenly wanted me to watch him do his homework? But by now my heart was long past stirring with the faintest ripple. I slowly shook my head. When I get back, I'm about to miss my flight. It's only a few days. I'll spend more time with him when I return. I was afraid that if I said any more, she might catch on to something. I sidestepped her, pulled my suitcase and walked out of the house. Liu Ruyan said nothing more and silently moved aside. Only when I was about to get into the car did she suddenly blurt out, "Honey, when you come back, let's go visit Lile's grandparents together. It's been a long time." My steps paused. I nodded, then got into the car without a word. It wasn't just a long time. It had been 2 whole years since either of us had gone back to our hometown to visit my parents. For those 2 years, I had devoted myself entirely to trying to win back Liu Ruyan's heart. I didn't dare leave, and I couldn't leave. Only in the rare moments I managed to find some free time could I call them to check in. Fortunately, when I was preparing to go to the overseas branch, I had everything arranged. The moment I boarded my flight, my parents would be boarding theirs as well. The branch had prepared a house for me over there, big enough for the 3 of us to live comfortably. From now on, I wouldn't have to worry about Liu Ruyan and Lele anymore. I could finally devote myself fully to making it up to my parents. I took one last look at the city where I had lived for 10 years. Without any lingering attachment, I followed the flight attendant's directions and took my seat. I turned off my phone, closed my eyes, and rested through a journey of over a dozen hours before finally reaching my destination. Walking out of the airport, I was just about to turn on my phone and call my parents when I saw a flood of 99+ notifications pop up on my social media app, all from Liu Ruyan. "Shen Quan, what's this divorce agreement on the table? Don't you think this tantrum has gone far enough? The photos? Where are your photos? Why are there only Lele and me? What exactly have you been hiding from me? Honey, why does your phone number show up as disconnected? Is your phone broken? Reply to me when you see this, okay? Honey Shen Quan, where exactly did you go? Why is a divorce lawyer calling me?" The notifications kept pinging. It seemed Liu Ruyan had finally discovered what I had been hiding from her. Only now did I realize that although I had snapped my SIM card and arranged everything domestically, I had forgotten to block Liu Ruyan on social media, which was why she could still reach me. Without hesitation, the next second I locked her in the blacklist. If I had just deleted her, she might have added me again, but after blocking, that possibility no longer existed. Staring at the screen full of questions and the address of Honey, I let out a cold laugh and shut off the app. Honestly, it had been nearly 2 years since I last heard Lu Ruyan call me Honey. The moment before I boarded the plane was the first time in nearly 2 years that she had called me that. But from that moment on, I realized I felt absolutely no emotional fluctuation in my heart. It was the same now. And wasn't all of this caused by Lu Ruyan herself? So what face did she have to come asking me why I wanted to divorce her? I hailed a cab outside the airport, and just like that, I put the matter behind me. Half an hour later, in the house arranged by the branch, I finally saw my parents. They were overjoyed. It had been 6 years since we'd seen each other without a screen between us, and none of us could quite hold back our emotions. Our eyes all grew red-rimmed. That evening, I had a few drinks with my dad while my mom busied herself preparing some snacks to go with the wine. After a long while, she finally sat down, looking hesitant. Son, I'm not sure if I should ask this. You're grown now, and you have your own mind about things. But this divorce, maybe you should think it over again? After all, you and Ruyan have been married for so many years, and there's Lele, such a big child now. Can you really bear to let go? At her words, I drained the wine in my glass in one gulp. To say I didn't feel any reluctance would certainly be a lie. But this wasn't something I could decide on my own. I had fought for it before, believing that as long as I gave them a good life and spent my spare time after work with them, our family could live happily together. But what Lu Ruyan and Lele had done had utterly broken my heart. They were the ones who forced me to make this choice. Otherwise, was I supposed to wait until they kicked me out and left me wandering the streets like a stray dog? My dad noticed the shift in my mood and shot my mom a look. Old woman, Quan has his own thoughts. As parents, we shouldn't be meddling so much. Besides, our daughter-in-law and grandson, they really did go too far. Leaving Ruyan aside for now, just think about Lele. A child that young is exactly at the age when he should be developing a proper sense of right and wrong, but he's already been influenced by Ruyan. After saying all this, my dad let out a deep sigh. I understood. The old folks always say that grandparents are closest to their grandchildren. My dad surely loved Lele dearly and couldn't bear to part with him. But I was his own son. If he had to choose between us, he would choose me without the slightest hesitation. My mom was the same. We talked a lot that night, pouring out all the words that had gone unsaid over the years, as if in one breath. It wasn't until 2 or 3 in the morning that we each went back to our rooms to sleep. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, I had been abroad for 2 months. My parents had found new friends here and were busy learning the local language every day, having the time of their lives. They had even brought Chinese chess, Go, square dancing, and other domestic pastimes over here, attracting a large audience. Seeing them live such fulfilling lives every day made me very happy, but I don't know if it was traditional thinking at work or what. Once people have free time and no worries, they start thinking about all kinds of things. For instance, my parents had actually set their sights on me and wanted to arrange blind dates for me. Son, what do you think of this girl? She's Chinese too, runs a coffee shop here. Isn't she beautiful? Mom, I don't want to go on blind dates. Fine, fine. Then what about this one? Fair skin, blue eyes. Just look at those hips, she's built for bearing sons. Mom, aren't you going square dancing today? Forget dancing. Forget dancing. And there's this one. Her skin's a bit dark, but her figure is amazing. Photo after photo flashed before my eyes. Seizing a moment when my mom wasn't paying attention, I suddenly bolted up and fled, not stopping until I reached the ground floor, where I clutched my chest and gasped for breath. Too terrifying. Over this period, I had already looked at no fewer than several hundred photos, plump ones, slender ones, tall ones, short ones, every type imaginable. I was practically suffering from aesthetic fatigue, though I had to admit that girl really was quite pretty, if I were to. I suddenly shook my head, feeling as though my mom had brainwashed me. How could I even entertain the dangerous thought of giving in? Having barely crawled out of one grave, was I really going to voluntarily walk into another? Yes, the past 10 years, the decade I spent with Lu Ruyan, was nothing but a grave in my heart. Perhaps there are marriages in this world where two people truly love each other and stay together for a lifetime, but that was never mine. In the end, my marriage left me suffocating. I strolled aimlessly down the street, casting the messy thoughts from my mind. It was the weekend, and I hadn't decided where to go yet, so I just wandered. Unconsciously, a figure appeared ahead of me. Lost in thought, I almost bumped into that person and hastily sidestepped. I looked up to apologize, but the moment I saw that familiar face, I froze. Lu Ruyan? How had she found her way here? Lu Ruyan looked utterly haggard. Her delicate features bore no makeup, only tension and a glimmer of hope. Honey, I've finally found you. Before she could finish, I cut her off with a frown. Ma'am, I think you've mistaken me for someone else. I am certainly not your husband. The divorce agreement has already taken effect. We are strangers now. Please don't go claiming relationships that don't exist. Lu Ruyan had been on the verge of tears, but at my words, she stopped, staring at me in disbelief. Yet no matter how incredulous she was, we were already divorced. I had printed out the divorce agreement and slipped it into the insurance paperwork that Lele's school required a signature on. As I had guessed, Lu Ruyan never suspected a thing. She signed the divorce agreement mixed in with the insurance documents without even glancing at it. It had been over 2 months since I left. The agreement had long since taken effect, and our marital status had changed from married to divorced. Lu Ruyan's eyes were red, her voice hoarse, and her mental state seemed somewhat unstable. No, I didn't agree. Honey, why? Why did you deceive me and leave me? Can you really bear to throw away all those years of feelings between us? Can you bear to give up on Lele? I was speechless, almost laughing at her in exasperation. She was asking me why, as if she had no clue at all. You should ask yourself that. You were the one who gave up on me first, and Lele along with it. I didn't want to say anymore. Shaking my head, I turned to leave. But Lu Ruyan blocked my path. No, please don't go, okay? I know I've done wrong. I apologize to you. Please, honey, I can't live without you. My steps faltered. I couldn't believe words like that could actually come out of Lu Ruyan's mouth. How bizarre. Even during the peak of our romance, she had never said anything so cringeworthy, let alone after the divorce. Was this really Lu Ruyan? I stared at her carefully for a long time before finally accepting reality. It was indeed her. Her appearance hadn't changed, but the way she spoke had. Only, the change had come far too late. I took a deep breath and looked at my ex-wife, who seemed on the verge of saying something but holding back. Helplessly, I said, Lu Ruyan, do you even believe those words yourself? Have you already forgotten how you treated me before? Have you forgotten how I groveled every time I begged you not to go out with Chang'an? You may not remember, but I do. I've truly had enough of that kind of life. So let's just part on good terms. With that, I shook off Lu Ruyan's hand and, ignoring her repeated pleas, turned and walked away. Then something suddenly occurred to me. Oh, and by the way, tell Lele his wish has come true. His stinky dad will never meddle in his life again. Let his dad Cheng spoil him instead. After saying that, I said no more and strode away. I don't know how far I walked, but when I passed a coffee shop, I went inside. The exchange of the past 10-odd minutes had left me utterly exasperated. A cup of coffee was exactly what I needed to clear my head. The owner was a woman who seemed to have just come back. The way she looked at me was a bit odd. I paid it no mind, until, as she served me my coffee, I happened to overhear her mutter the word scumbag under her breath. I couldn't hold back my frown any longer. Stop right there. What did you just say? What scumbag? The owner's body stiffened. She halted her retreating steps and forced a smile. Sir, it's nothing. You must have misheard. I said handsome guy. It's a local term here. We call good-looking men handsome guys. I just couldn't help myself. The employee at the cash register looked utterly dumbfounded, clearly baffled as to why the boss would say such things. But under her threatening glare, he nodded vigorously in agreement. The scene struck me as highly suspicious, but I had no choice but to grudgingly accept it. Yet the very second I let the owner go, another disgruntled murmur drifted over. How did that damn scumbag hear me? This is so embarrassing. Wait, he didn't hear that too, did he? Meeting the owner's awkward gaze, I nodded expressionlessly. I heard it, quite clearly, in fact. What was this supposed to mean? Was she mocking me? Or had she accidentally voiced her inner monologue out loud? I sneered, about to speak, when the owner seemed to throw caution to the wind. She squeezed her eyes shut and launched into a tirade at me. Fine, whatever. You're Shen Quan, right? Am I wrong to call you a scumbag? On one hand, you're having your family arrange blind dates for you, and on the other, you're out on the street making some girl cry. And she's your ex-wife, no less. And there's a child involved too. It's a good thing I didn't agree to my mom's matchmaking, or I'd be your next victim. Calling you a scumbag is being too kind. Pa. I was utterly stunned. Her spit had actually landed on my face. Who was this woman? How could she be so fearless? But wait, was she misunderstanding something? I looked at her more carefully and suddenly realized the owner looked familiar. She was probably one of the girls my mom had shown me in photos a few days ago, the quiet, refined, well-educated one who ran a coffee shop. Recalling what she had just said, my suspicion solidified. I hurriedly tried to explain, not wanting her to ruin my reputation. But the moment I opened my mouth, the owner ordered her staff to throw me out, giving me no chance whatsoever. A moment later, a sign was even hung on the shop door, Shen Quan and dogs not allowed. I stood there, utterly dumbfounded for a good while, before helplessly accepting the situation. I had no choice but to accept it. She had stationed her employee at the door, eyes glued to me, on full alert. Back home, I recounted the whole story to my parents, who couldn't stop laughing. My mom said, "Son, since you've already run into her, what do you think of her? Any interest in getting to know her better?" I shook my head decisively. None. That woman is crazy and I'm afraid she might infect me. Days passed one by one. Gradually, I adapted to life here. No longer was I shuttling back and forth between just the office and home. I now had friends, had ways to entertain myself, and my life was slowly getting back on track. What I hadn't expected, though, was that Lu Ruyan hadn't left. She was waiting for me almost every day downstairs at the company. From what she told me, she had left Lela with her parents, rented a place here, and was determined to make me go back home with her. I refused her firmly several times, but it had no effect. If anything, it only made her more persistent. Heartfelt breakfasts, heartfelt lunches, afternoon tea, desserts, every day, without repetition. Her most frequent line was, "Tell me what you want to eat and I'll buy it. If I can't find it, I'll learn to make it." Anyone who saw this would be green with envy, thinking I was the ultimate winner in life. But all I wanted to say was, whoever envies me is welcome to take my place. I salute their courage. Until one afternoon, Lu Ruyan showed up yet again, her first words being, "Honey, I've learned a new dish." I couldn't take it anymore. The words I hadn't had the heart to say before finally burst out. "Shut up. Lu Ruyan, hearing you call me honey makes me sick. Don't you realize I've already stepped aside for Chang'an? Why are you still bothering me? Are you deliberately toying with me? And for the record, I already have a girlfriend. I don't want her getting the wrong idea, understood?" With that, I grabbed the coffee shop owner, who had been standing by watching the drama unfold, and wrapped my arm around her waist. Having been here for a while now, I had learned the owner's name, Su Shui. After spending time together, Our misunderstanding had long since been cleared up. But she probably never imagined that simply delivering a coffee order would drag her into something like this. She blushed crimson and kept struggling. I had no choice but to whisper in her ear, "Play along with me, and we'll call it even for the misunderstanding." Only then did Su Jue quiet down. Lu Ruyan looked incredulous, her eyes wide with a hint of grievance. "I don't believe you, honey, no, Shen Quan." Seeing me frown, Lu Ruyan hastily corrected herself. "I truly know I was wrong. I've already cut ties with Chang'an, won't you forgive me? I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you." I slowly shook my head. I truly don't want to go back to that kind of life anymore, and I won't let myself make the same mistakes I made before. Lu Ruyan seemed at a loss for what to do. Before she could finish speaking, I suddenly felt a warmth on my face. Su Xue had gently planted a kiss on my cheek. It wasn't just me. Even Lu Ruyan was stunned. She stared at us for a long moment before covering her face and running out sobbing. Su Xue's shy voice reached my ear. "It's a deal then. The misunderstanding is settled." I smiled. After that day, I never saw Lu Ruyan again. From what friends back home told me, after she returned, she had a huge fight with Chang'an. The two of them parted on bad terms, truly and completely cutting ties. She was raising the child alone now and hadn't looked for anyone new. Lele had also kept my surname all along. The mother and son seemed unable to forget something, or perhaps they were atoning. When I heard all this, I let out a sigh and promptly put it out of my mind. Because the last time I asked Su Shui to see a movie, we held hands. And when the plot reached its climax, I couldn't resist stealing a kiss from her. I heard she's put that Shen Quan in Dogs Not Allowed sign back up again. Well, I'd better go teach her what she should and shouldn't do. Didn't she once call me a scumbag? Then let me show her exactly how a scumbag deals with someone like her.